All right, today I'm starting off the second episode in our series where I am filming some of my favorite hunting YouTubers. And today we're going to be looking at a channel that I love following along, especially when it comes to deer season. He's got over 7,000 subscribers, has posted over 175 videos, and has reached over 1.7 million views. It is Ben from Camp Benny. Ben,
Hello,
thanks for joining
hello.
me today. How are we doing?
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
So I like to say that I'm super excited to have you on the show.
I'm super excited as well.
Awesome. And you know what? Maybe I'm going to follow not to follow my questions, but maybe you could tell me a little bit about the super excited in your logo.
Yeah, right on. It pretty much came by accident, around, I think it was, if you watch the Camp Benny episode back to around 2019, I believe I had pretty full camp, maybe 7 guys in camp. And by tradition, what I'll do is on the day before the gun opener, everybody's excited. It's everybody's thinking like tomorrow morning, it's like Christmas morning. And so I like to go around to each of the guys and just have them kind of give a little quick testimonial of, what are they anticipating for the opener and that kind of thing. And first guy, goes to speak about how, he's just super excited about all the deer sign and everything like that. And then I move on to the next guy and he talks about how he's got his stand all set and the sign around his stand. He's just really super excited to get out there for the opener. Go on to the next guy, and it's there's a trend. So we, I don't know if it's my brother or myself, one of us towards the very end, for like every single person said they're super excited. I think we've definitely identified now that we are super excited about this opener. So we all got a good chuckle of it because we didn't even realize that it was going on at the time. That we definitely were super excited. So when it came time to creating the logo, we had a few different ideas, built, not bought, stuff like that. And then we just got to
Yep.
thinking, you know what? Let's use super excited. I think that is just classic. I think it's catchy. So yeah, we went with it.
That's really cool because I've always wondered about that, as well as I am sporting green and black plaid in reminiscing to the Camp Benny logo, which is very iconic there. So super excited to have you on. So why don't you tell me just a little bit about your personal life, maybe a little bit about what you do for your day job, and a little bit about whatever you're feeling comfortable about sharing about your family and how they're involved with you.
Sure thing. Well, so I live in West Michigan. My day job is I have a business with my brothers, and it is focused on technology. So we solve a lot of our clients' problems through technology, whether it's cybersecurity type needs, network security, a lot of things that revolve around IT, essentially. And so we've been doing that for a lot of years. Very passionate about it. So my wife Amy, we've been married 28 years, and we have 3 kids.
Oh, congrats.
Of course, they're not kids now; they're all adults. It's hard for me. I haven't quite switched over to realizing that. So my oldest daughter, Cheyenne, she's married, and to Brian, which you would see in the deer camp videos. Um, and they have a
Okay.
son, my first grandson, first grandchild. His name is Waylon. And then my second
Oh, that's
oldest
a
is
cool name.
McKenna. And then my youngest is Ben Jr. We are a hunting family. I'm definitely more sick than the rest of them when it comes to hunting. They really enjoy spending
Yeah.
time in the outdoors. Um, we kind of laugh sometimes about how I kind of created my own monster by getting them passionate about it. um, because they want to go out and want me to help go take them out, but I need some time out myself because it's kind of some time to, I guess, de-stress a little, spend some time with the Lord out in His creation, and yeah. But yeah, I've been a hunter safety instructor for many years. I haven't been actively doing any classes for the last few years, but um, really have enjoyed that. I, of course, love self filming my hunts and our adventures. I've been filming long before YouTube, all the way back to probably the late 80s. When I was just a young boy in grade school, I would just come home from school, pack a backpack with, PB&J or whatever, and split for the woods. It's where I've always been. It's home to me. Very much enjoy the outdoors.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you definitely in your videos I see, your family going out all the time and even your wife, which is awesome. I wish my wife would head out in the woods with me, but very cool that you have them included. So it's not you just time being away from the family. A lot of your hunting time is actually time with your family.
Yeah, right on. I think it probably would be a good thing for me to do a video one of these days with my wife speaking to that journey, if you will, because it wasn't really an overnight thing. Um, so yeah, I think that might be a good thing that other guys' wives might be able to identify with.
So obviously you enjoy making YouTube videos. What about
Okay,
spending time on YouTube? Is that something that you really do a lot of? And if you do, what kind of stuff are you viewing? Are you viewing strictly hunting stuff? Are you self improvement, just funny videos?
sure.
What kind of stuff do you watch?
Um, so I'd say I bet you on average I spend at least a couple hours a week on YouTube. Traditionally, we have a local show, Michigan Out of Doors, that's on Thursday nights. Often I'm watching that with my buddy Doug. He's my neighbor as well. So we get together every Thursday night and watch that together. Um, and this might sound a little odd, like we're maybe full of ourselves or something. It's not my heart by any means, but we watch a lot of actually the old Camp Benny videos and that, just reliving the memories. Generally, whoever I'm, wa- you know, whoever I'm watching with was there. We had that memory together, so we like to reflect back on those types of things. Um, Outside of that, personal development, I work on that a ton. I need plenty of development, that's for sure, but I'll usually turn more to like an Audible type solution for that, audiobook. um, but on the YouTube side, you know i'm I'm always looking to learn how things work, fix things. It's such a wealth of information out there. It's very wonderful for that. So if there's little projects I want to start or do, I do like to. I'm quite the visual learner, so I'll do a fair amount of that, and then I usually kind of keep up what's going on with other deer camps around the U.S. Definitely passionate about the whole deer camp thing. So yeah, I'll usually watch others, what they post out there. Entertaining for sure.
So you would probably consider yourself. So you would probably consider yourself like a YouTube certified mechanic then,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
And what kind of yeah, I mean, every time I have something wrong with the car, that's the first thing I do. Go to YouTube, see what other guys are doing to fix it. And then what are some channels that you follow? What other hunting
Yeah.
camps do you follow along with?
So let's see. If you don't mind, I'm gonna look up some of their. Yeah. Well, so there's one in
I know I put you on the
Minnesota
spot
that's
here.
really good. Well, I'll just rattle off some that are off the top of my head, and sorry for. I'm sure I'm forgetting plenty, but Knetter's Practical Outdoors. He's up in the UP. Whitetail Warriors Deer Camp. Dan, great guy, lives on the east side of the state, but he has a camp up in the UP. Carl's Off the Grid. He's in Wisconsin. Um, I believe it's called Minnesota Outdoors. Great group of people, like-minded. Good, clean deer camp. Yeah, Minnesota Deer Camp. I do enjoy like hunting public, watching what they put out as well. It's kind of deer camp on the road.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with you. Like, it's definitely one of my favorite things is when we get up to deer camp, and I've been doing it the last 2 or 3 years. It's kind of recording, and we do the same thing at camp. Is we'll watch back the previous years and kind of reminisce about the good times, and you know those tails that were this big, we suddenly remember, oh yeah, it really wasn't that big, because things get
Oh
exaggerated
yeah,
as we
sure,
as we go on, for sure.
right, yeah.
Um, but it's definitely one of our favorite things to do as well. And it was funny that you mentioned like deer camp being like Christmas morning. So that's what we actually call opening day, is Christmas morning. And we go as far as to actually wrap presents for each other and pass those out before we go out on opening day.
That's awesome. I felt convicted like a year or two ago because my brother says after we referred to it as Christmas morning on video, he goes, you guys are, kind of relating that to the day we celebrate as Jesus's birth, right? It's like, oh, I guess we probably should figure out a different way to explain how super excited we are about the opener.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I
Oh,
I hear you. But
I
yeah,
do
so
enjoy too.
definitely you've been
I,
making videos. Go ahead.
just one more thing I wanted to share there. I don't know if you watched much of the old school hunting videos by professionals, say back in like the late '80s, but Dan Fitzgerald and like Noel Feather, names like that of the past. A lot of that stuff's still out there, and I like searching for those. It's just, I don't know, peaceful to me versus all the commercialism that you see in today's hunting shows.
Oh yeah, like today's hunt is brought to you by Rage Broadheads, and like versus Dan
Yeah, it's like
Fitzgerald and his big
NASCAR.
scraggly beard. Yeah, and he's like, you think he's like just living out in the woods off the land, and um,
Right.
I kind of grew up in a hunting family, and I remember my dad. I never saw the videos, but my dad would tell me about Dan Fitzgerald, and this guy hunted with a 90-pound draw weight and just blasting arrows through deer, and he was kind of the legend when I was a kid, for sure. Um, so getting into basically the history of Camp Benny, the YouTube channel, can you tell me a little bit about how many years you've kind of been making YouTube videos? And then when you started, not necessarily what your current goals are, but when you started the channel, kind of what were the goals and reasons for putting them on YouTube?
Sure. So I believe I uploaded my first video about 10 years ago. I actually started the channel in, I think, 2007 is when I created the account. And it was Camp Benny then. I had Camp Benny already by 2001. And I basically created that just so I had a platform to share some of the videos that I was already capturing for family and friends so that I could share it via, say, an email or something digitally. Previous to YouTube, I actually would rip a DVD, for family and friends, for all the guys in camp and things like that. But it
Yeah.
was, the fact I could throw it up to the cloud was seemed more sustainable than a DVD that could warp or something. Yep. Yeah, and so it
Yeah.
wasn't
Get cracked,
until,
white trap.
yeah, I'm trying to think. There was a kind of like a tipping point, probably around 2013 maybe, where I started to realize that there's an audience out there that actually values this stuff besides friends and family. And so I think you'll see the videos starting to be a bit more intentional about capturing the story, and rather than just talking to each other in the video, maybe we're acknowledging the fact that there could be another audience that's a different level of viewership.
Okay. When you first started, like nowadays, it's so easy to just pull out your cell phone or you've got a GoPro, but back in the day, didn't really have those things. What kind of equipment were you first kind of starting with? We give the big, hi-fi, VHS recorder, or
That's exactly it. So my very first deer I shot in 1991. In a few years before that is when I actually first started hunting. But even so, back then I was carrying a camera around. Even during the off season, I would go around trying video a bedded buck or a buck dog and a doe or any of those things. But so that was on VHS, full VHS tape, and I would actually daisy chain a VCR to a VCR to rip them for family and friends, or make a backup because I was worried I was going to lose that footage. So yeah, in 91 I've got my first deer, but I didn't know back then that this would all exist, so we didn't share it in a story format. So I have produced a few videos where it kind of throws back, where I'll mention it and then I'll overlay a little bit of the footage. Otherwise, it would be so awful if I just threw that video up raw. Just can't bring myself quite to do that. It's pretty awful. But yeah, then went to the VHS-C, to the high 8 or digital high 8 tapes. And those at least had like a RCA jack that you could daisy chain it to, say, a DVD writer or some form of like a hard drive or something like that, and I could play it and capture it, and then turn it into a MP4 or MPEG video or something that nature. Then finally, I want to say it was probably around 2008 when I got my first HD camera that could actually write to an SD card.
That's really cool. Kind of the evolution of technology, and how it made things obviously much easier, more convenient. Nowadays, so many people I see are getting into the self-filming with literally just a cell phone, and it just makes it so convenient.
Yeah, I've owned plenty of the like $300 Sony or Panasonic handy cams with an SD card. It's a great way for somebody to start out. Worked well for me. I remember some self-filmers that had accomplished way more than I had at the time really recommending that I move to a 4K. And I really didn't value it at the time. I didn't see that big a difference between, say, a 1080 HD and the 4K type camera. Once I got into it, I could see a night and day difference. So I would say if you look into my videos around 2018, I want to say I made that cut over, and that I really feel like was like a pivotal moment for the Camp Benny channel, growth wise and engagement wise and everything. It's when I feel like started to take it to another level for sure.
Okay, I had this question later on, but let's just hit it now. So you talked about switching from 1080 to 4K, was kind of a turning point around that time frame. Was there a specific video that you think really helped make that jump? And if so, maybe there was a couple of them, and what were those videos?
Yeah, so one that stands out for me was 2018. I have a video that actually got demonetized. It's 10 point, and I shot him quartering towards me. Not as bad as it looks. It's more because you got the camera and then you got the hunter. I felt very confident with the shot. But anyways, I tagged the carotid artery there, and blood is just dumping out of that buck. And that is when I moved to the Lumix, Panasonic Lumix FZ300. I was attracted to that because it is known to be moisture proof and dust proof. Very good for somebody who's outdoors. It's got plenty of drawbacks too, but that was my first 4K camera, and in 3 days I want to say I hit like 40 some thousand views on it. I hadn't experienced anything like that with my previous videos. I was super excited about that until it got demonetized, and now you have to log in and prove that you're over 18 just to watch the video. So it's hardly gotten any views since then, but it had great engagement. It was fun. It's disappointing. I requested a review on it and I got turned down.
So I believe I was just scrolling through your channel. It looks like the thumbnail says quick track job, and it says 10-point down Michigan deer hunt. That is going to my watch later file right there.
Yeah, enjoy it. I think you'll like it.
And so just because we're talking about it, I'm not going to ask you anything about how much money you make or anything, but can you tell me a little bit about the monetization and how? I'm not there yet, and but how that works and what it takes to get to that level. A little bit about that, maybe.
Sure. So don't hold me to this. You'll want to do some research on it if you really want to know. But it seems like off the top of my head that I think you need 1,000 subscribers to be able to have your videos monetized. Once you qualify or you're at that point, I think it's through like Google AdSense. You set up a connection between a bank account and that AdSense account, so it can, of course, do a deposit of the revenue that you earn or generate.
Okay.
I don't. This definitely is not a hard rule, but I would say there's some truth to it. I think that revenue-wise, for what it's worth, I think you get about $1 per subscriber. If you watch your analytics on the video, you can see how many subscribers you gain in that video. So how many subscribed while watching it. Right. It's good visibility, of course. How engaged are they? How many minutes are they watching of that video and whatnot. I think YouTube prefers those videos that are 10 minutes, or greater. As well as I like to use the community section. It's more of a photo posting session, like you would on Facebook or Instagram. But I think you need to have it's either 500 or 1,000 subscribers, I think, to qualify for that.
Okay. That is some cool information. Definitely wasn't something I planned on touching on, but maybe tell me a little bit about more of the community part, because I know I've seen your post. I've even shared one of our deer camp. You'd asked for people to email you pictures of their deer camp, and then you're able to share that. And exactly where do you go to do that, and maybe a little bit about that. And do you think that's helped your channel, or is it just something you enjoy purely for enjoyment?
I think it's a great tool. As you know, we have day jobs. It takes a lot of bandwidth to make a video and to do it well, and balance our family life and all those good things. It's all about balance. So the nice thing about the community section, which is a tab that I believe will just appear if you reach a certain threshold of subscribers. It's that, or they'll
Okay.
notify you that it's available and maybe you got to turn it on. But I think it just appears. And so what I like about it is, like you mentioned, with it allows me to allow my viewership to send me stuff to share about them. I love that. It drives community amongst us hunters versus I don't need to talk about just me and us, and that feels weird to me. I'd rather share about us, meaning the viewers and that are part of that whole Camp Benny or deer camp culture. Something that unifies us. So, yeah, email me a picture of the your son's first buck this year, and tell me the story on it and let me share that with others. So the community section allows for that, and I can even schedule those. So I have the next 6 weeks covered. Pretty much every Wednesday at noon, it'll go ahead and post it, and I had done it weeks prior, even. So it's kind of a nice way to stay in touch with everybody with relevant content. So I'll
Yeah, like
typically
I'm just
do,
scrolling through. I'm just scrolling through.
yeah, Wednesday at noon. I think you'll see a typical trend there, and then I try and aim for Saturdays at 8 a.m. Encourage somebody to grab their cup of coffee and watch a Camp Benny video, and so I'll try and have a new video on Saturday mornings.
That's pretty cool. And I've noticed that same thing. You'll post on the community page that, hey, Saturday 8 a.m. Camp Betty. And, you just had one the other day, the M1 Garand, which I was itching to see that, which is a very cool gun you got to shoot. Um, you had a tour of another deer camp that was up in the UP that was really cool to see. So it's kind of a cool way to remind people that there's something upcoming, so you're not constantly watching your subscription page to try and find it, for sure.
Right on. To a degree, I think maybe some of those other ways, like community, might also issue a notification with to. I'm not positive how this works, but it's possible that it. You know how you have the bell for notifications within YouTube,
Yeah,
so that if you post, a subscription, post the video, they'll get notified. But that's not a default thing. They have to, take the extra steps to do that. I'm not positive, but I do wonder if maybe community might alert them without that notification turned on.
yeah,
I
that's
think
pretty
for
cool. That's
sure, like if you do a live video or something, it might do that.
so you heard it here on the Camp Benny podcast community tab. You guys need to look forward to that. That's pro tip right there.
Yes, please do.
You had the pro tip of the day using the community tab, but it's obvious you love having your family in the video and friends, and use it kind of like as a bonding. And you obviously, one of your big purposes of this is to share it with your friends and kind of use it to reminisce. But what would you say is your favorite type of video? You've done a few very well put together cinematic pieces where you do some great voiceover with some B-roll footage that just is really awesome that I kind of aspire to one day. But what would you say is your favorite type of video to film and edit?
Definitely deer camp, and then the right next to that would be my self film hunts. Deer camp is a little bit extra special just because there's always others involved. Where if I go shoot a big buck by myself, while I do appreciate the fact that the animal and the hunt and the fact that I preserve the memory, rarely do I have somebody there with me. I guess the exception of that is that the viewership, they get to somewhat feel like they're there with me because I'm sharing the story. But yeah, definitely a little extra special having those, the guys in camp. But I enjoy editing those. I tell people it's I have my day job, but when I go to edit those videos, it's like therapy for me. It's like a de-stressor for sure. I enjoy doing that.
Like I'm learning as I go some better editing techniques. But it is not easy. You know, when I've looked at previous to starting a YouTube channel, I just thought, oh, no big deal. You shoot a couple clips, you throw them together, throw them up there, and it's done. But there's a lot of work. There's a lot of learning that goes on how to use your specific software. So maybe you could talk about what software do you use? How long have you been using that? Have you used other softwares? Maybe you could talk on that a little bit.
Yeah, right on. So I use Adobe Premiere Elements. Um, Not quite as fancy as a true, Adobe Premiere Pro. Uh, it I can pretty much accomplish most things that I need to with it. I've been using it, Jeremy. I'm not even sure. At least 10 years, anyways. It's pretty much, I think, all I've ever used after Movie Maker. And that would come with Windows many years ago. I've tried other things like Pinnacle and I think Sony Vegas, few different ones, just to kick the tires a little bit, do a 30-day trial or whatever. And I always land right back where I am today. And so probably every 2 or 3 years, I'll upgrade to the latest version. I'll have enough enhancements about it to make it worth my money and my while. Yep. Learning
Okay.
curve. I didn't think
Is that a thing that you buy?
learning curve. I don't think was too bad. There's
Is
plenty of
that one where
YouTube.
you buy it?
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, there is like this lag, unfortunately, with this app. But would you say like that app that you use, is it one where you purchase it like a one-time fee of like $100 and you get to use it kind of unlimited until you want to upgrade and then you pay for that upgrade package?
100%. That's how it works. Yep.
Okay. And like you said, YouTube is like where we go for knowledge a lot of times nowadays. And obviously, you can do that with just about any one of these apps, whether it's, Adobe Premiere or DaVinci Resolve or iMovie. I mean, just such a wealth of information. And it's amazing what you can do with even some of these free editing softwares. So, what about for making thumbnails? Is there an app or do you use the Adobe, that same software for making your thumbnails?
So I've tried several. Where I'm at today, that I really like is Canva, and I just use the free version of it.
Okay.
Yep, and
I
that
forget.
works
It might
better
have
than the
been,
paid ones that I've used.
yeah. Someone I had talked to uses that same one. Um, so that's very cool, especially that it's free.
Exactly.
So use the Adobe Premiere editing software, use the Canva for thumbnails. Maybe you could talk to us now about the equipment that you're currently using for filming. And obviously, we can see behind you, you do a lot of turkey hunting as well. So maybe the equipment that you use for self filming turkey hunts, self filming deer hunts, and then maybe you use some different equipment for when you're doing maybe review videos or any of that other stuff.
Yeah, you bet. Let's see here. I tried to. I suspected that this might come up. I tried to jot down. I've got a lot of camera stuff for just different applications and occasions. So my main camera is a Sony FDR AX 700. For my like second and even third angle, I have a GoPro Hero Black 8, or actually it's a 9. I have a I use my phone, just the Galaxy S22. So I did a turkey hunt with Ben Jr. last spring, and there's a moment where I'm capturing. So the camera's just to my left. I'm trying to call. We got the turkey decoy set up out in front of us, and then Ben Jr.'s to my right. You can see both of us, no blind, just sitting in chairs low to the ground. And that was just using my phone on a fourth arrow monopod. I actually have it here. It extends, sticks in the ground. I've got a ton of fourth
Okay.
arrow equipment, different. So I have another fourth arrow monopod that's much larger here that has a big stake on it. This is
Oh, that's
just
very cool.
a game changer for run and
Pistol
gun.
grip.
Um, Turkey hunting, it's almost always holding a POV in the blind, or I'll just run my main camera on it. Very heavy duty, adjustable height and whatnot. I have my GoPro on this stake now, but I also have, I don't know what brand it is, but it's a high quality grip for my phone. It's all made of some type of metal. I've had the plastic spring loaded ones that would launch my phone like 20 feet away from me. That eventually I'd break
Yeah.
those. Uh, Again, turkey hunting. I've got this. It's a fourth arrow. I think it's called a Rex arm. Uh, Very, very handy to run on the monopod stake or on a tripod. But if you're in a pop-up blind to move from one window to the other. But I also have the carbon arms, the triple arms. I've got uh, this here that will mount to the shooting rail on a tree stand, and then
Okay.
I can
That's
run
very
the
cool.
arm right on that. Very easy to just throw in a backpack and go. I like that because I like to move around a lot to different stands and go where the deer are. Obviously, I've even got the little mini fourth arrow tripod here. Uh, so I've got a lot of stuff for all kinds of
Yeah, a lot
applications.
of options for sure.
Yeah. On the Camp Benny, the deer hunt videos, you'll see quite a few of the other guys that go up to camp are filming too. Quite often they're using extra arms, shoulders, and bases and whatnot that I have to equip them with. I ask them even if they can just capture, even if they don't capture a kill shot, just to give an update of how it's going over in their neck of the woods really makes it more entertaining than just hearing me all the time on the video. So I like that, breaking it up and get everybody involved. Yeah, as far as
Yeah, I love that
microphones,
part of your videos.
as far as
I love
micro
that part of your videos when you cut to like one guy over here. I feel like I'm in like a newscast, and you're like, over to you, Dan. And it does. It helps keep me engaged in kind of the action that's going on. So
Yeah, I appreciate that feedback. So I run shotgun mics on, for sure my main cameras, Rode, you know, mic, and then I've got the wireless Go 2 made by Rode. I think I might have seen you even running those on one of your videos. Is that possible? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, right there, right
I
on.
I did. I 3D printed a small piece to hold it, so that way I can hang it around my neck and it hangs straight up.
Great idea. Yeah, so those are nice for redundancy in your audio too, because they'll write to themselves, or you can have them write to the camera. You can split the tracks, or you can have them, overlap. You got uh, kind of opens up some things for a filmer for sure. Yep.
Yeah, that was a great addition. I love those things.
Yeah, so I've got all kinds. So I've got a closet, and I've just got boxes labeled on the end. What type of I got a whole box just of like camera arms and the slide plates for the video heads and the fluid heads, and another one for tripods and stakes and monopods and all things that have to do with that. Another box just full of like cameras. I have almost every camera all the way back to the beginning of time still. Uh, I like to keep them around I'll usually have an extra main camera just in my backpack because I've had it before where my main camera, the battery flaked out or something isn't, it's dead. I forgot to charge it or whatever. I can just quick swap them. And I've had that save my hiney a few times on deer because I pretty much am not going to shoot unless I'm filming it. I've created those habits. It actually feels more weird for me to not film than to film.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and obviously you have a huge collection of Fourth Arrow, which is it's a Michigan-based company, and they make some awesome stuff. I myself have never bought a camera arm, but from the stuff I see, they've got some really solid, heavy-duty, beefy stuff, and they've got a lot of options that you've shown. From little tripods to swinging on the tripod to mounting on your your ladder stand to just about everything. So very cool, supporting a Michigan-based company. Um, they happen to have a Bible verse posted on their website, which leads me to believe they're a Christian-based company as well. So
Hmm.
that's always cool. So when you're gonna edit, you've got all your footage. Let's say Camp Benny, week one. You have, I imagine, just hours and hours and hours of video, and I know you don't want to post, a 4-hour video, so you've got to break it down to just the nuts and bolts. How long are you spending on one of those videos editing?
A long time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet.
So if you see, so quite often like a Camp Benny video, say our gun hunt, I'll break them out into parts so they're a bit more digestible for the viewer. So let's say, for example, if part one is a 50-minute to an hour long video, I would say that I would probably start with about 6 hours of footage, raw footage, and start chopping. And I go through a series of phases with it. I generally get to a point when I'll do several exports, and then I have I guess I'll call them my trusted advisors. My wife being one of them, to where I'll put her through, watching it, and I'll usually kind of watch her posture to see if she's starting to drift off on it, and is she paying attention? How captivating is this video? My kids have been wonderful for that, as well as the guys in camp. Very patient with me through the process. But otherwise, I'll start getting burnt out on it because I'll have so many go rounds with it. I should keep track of the hours. I don't know how many hours I put into, say, that series, but if we figured out that I put 40 hours in on that part, on one part, I I would believe that.
Okay.
I almost hate to track it.
I can believe that.
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
you can.
I hear
Yeah,
you.
you're familiar with
And
the
I
process.
and I know what you're saying. Like, I'll export that video, and watch it myself. And I tend to be a little ADD when I'm watching, and like I'll jump, and I have trying to put it into my brain that if I want to jump, then my viewers want to jump. So I need to either do some sort of cut. I need to cut that section out, or I need to show a different some B-roll to kind of break that monotony up or something.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to. That's something I'm kind of learning along the way for sure. So that's pro tip number 2: export your videos, have your wife or your friends review them for you and tell you what to do.
Yes. Yeah, and
My
really
wife,
highly
unfortunately, will not
recommend.
sit through one of my videos.
I highly recommend that. Uh, if you're going to get into this, to build somewhat of a storyline, a checklist of all the angles that you need to capture on a hunt or an adventure like that. Makes it a lot easier. For a while, you might actually rely on it, but if you do it enough times, it it really becomes almost second nature. I mean, I feel lost if I'm missing a step generally or a particular shot, um, because I've established those habits, and I've done it enough times that generally it almost trips me up to even hand somebody a camera then, because I'm so used to doing it all myself on everything that it almost interrupts the flow of it if I actually hand my camera to somebody else. It's kind of funny.
And one thing I've seen from you, because you've done several kind of cinematic type pieces, is that at least on my end, what it looks like is that B-roll is king. Lots of good B-roll and voiceover work can really go a long ways in telling that story.
Yeah, I'm glad you like them. They, as something like that takes a lot of commitment and time to pull that all together. And I've seen others do it way better, and it was something to challenge myself to kind of, I guess, up my game or whatever. And uh, yeah, the the deer camp anthem video in particular was, when I made that,
Fall
I
time,
figured that video actually would have,
a season that brings
like,
hunters together with
I
promises
don't
of
want to say
cooler
necessarily go
weather
viral,
lie
but
ahead.
go outperform any other video I've ever made. And for the amount of time I got into it,
The
if that
sightings
was
of
a
new bucks
measurement
searching in
to
daylight for a
equate
hot
to that kind of
doe.
success, it should have, kind of thing. But it actually doesn't have, that much
The
engagement
sounds of
and views
falling
to
autumn
it.
leaves on a
Um,
frosty morning.
maybe changing a thumbnail or something will help. Who knows? But it is one of my favorites,
Fall
and I
time.
figured it would be for the rest of the world too. Um,
It also
but yeah, I'm
brings
surprised it's actually a fairly low performing
deer
video,
camp.
for what I would have guessed. And then I made another one. You might have seen Hunting Legacy the next year. Took
It's a
another crack
secret
at it,
spot
and
in
like you said,
Michigan's
I
Upper
have
Peninsula.
quite the pool of content that is new, never been seen before, all the way back to my uncle's hunting in the 60s and 70s. And I thought that would go, really well too. And they did okay. I have no regrets by any means. I'm just surprised that they didn't perform better than they did.
So that touches on two different topics, and I want to go in both directions. And I'm hoping my mind will remember to go back to that. So I'm going to make a note here. Um, so I don't go lose my train of thought. So I'll come back to the one I wrote down. But first, let's talk about um, that videos that you thought would do really well that didn't, which you just talked about that. But what are maybe some videos that went really well that maybe you didn't expect to go well, or blow up as big as they did?
Sure. So yeah, the voiceovers I thought they would do really well and didn't. Videos that did really well that I didn't expect. One that's I almost have to, I don't know if it's appropriate to laugh about it, but so I back around 2010 I went up to the boreal forest up in Ontario and I was tracking deer in the snow and I was pursuing a nice buck. It was the last day type of deal, and I said if this isn't a giant that I'm tracking, if he doesn't end up being, I mean, just like literally buck of a lifetime, it's going to be I'm so many miles from the truck that it just has to be that, and I might be late for getting back home. I mean, really upset the trip to get it. So this buck better be a giant. Anyways, I caught up to him. It was a buck laying in his bed. I mean, everything aligned just right, except he just didn't have the rack that I had already decided if it didn't have it, I'm not shooting. So I had a GoPro running on my head as I tracked this buck, and it's, a GoPro. So you can't see hardly anything in it other than I'm obviously tracking a buck in snow. And I wasn't good at editing at all back then. I'm not good at it now necessarily, but certainly back then I was way worse. And so if you're lucky, you can see the deer for a split second. And he was right there. He was within 10 yards of me. Great experience for me. So I wanted the memory, so I just threw it up on YouTube and just put, big buck attracting snow or something like that. And I don't know what it's at. It's probably 30,000 views, maybe even more than that. Tons of thumbs down.
You're at 35,000 views.
Okay, 35,000 views. That's one of those,
Yeah.
You'd figure I'd get like 300 or 400 views, maybe, kind of thing. But I didn't expect that to happen at all. Revenue wise, it might have yielded even, a couple $100 or something like that. Just kind of funny. I would have never guessed that would have done as well as it had.
So I'm looking at your page right now, and the video right next to it is a 2-minute long video. Turtle eggs found near farm pond shore.
Don't
Never do this. And it's got 70,000 views.
Yeah, that was another one. We're just right here in my pond at home, and I was out with Ben Jr. and my wife, and he always liked digging in the sand, and he just happened to stumble upon some turtle eggs. And I'm telling him, don't touch them, and he was, he was really young, and yeah, it did really well. Yep.
That's funny. So I've got it just because it's in front of me. I plan to bring this up later, but maybe you could tell me there's another video that's in front of me here. It's got 16,000 views. It's 30 seconds long, and it's catching a bird with my bare hands. It's one of the first videos that shows up on your channel. And tell me, there's got to be a little backstory of what was going on here.
Yeah, earlier years at deer camp, we had some I think it was a bag of corn maybe that spilled or something like that outside the trailer, and the black-capped chickadees, they're a real friendly bird anyways, but they were just dive bombing in there. So I was telling the guys, I go, I bet you I can get one of them to feed out of my hands and I could catch it. No way, no way. So I go over there and I'm certain to get real close to being successful. So one of them grabbed the camera and started filming, and sure enough, I caught the bird with my hand. And that actually, that was like my first experience of, I think whatever we consider viral would be a subject to opinion, but I want to say, it's a big deal if I got a few hundred views on a video previous to that. And that video in particular, it jumped to like 10,000 views in like a week. And so I was like watching it like a hawk, like, oh my gosh, is this going to go to 1 million views or what? This is crazy. That was my first experience of a
Yeah.
video just kind of taking off on me.
So I feel like you need to take that one, turn it into a YouTube short. I mean, I'm no YouTube short master at all, but I feel like that would go viral because I've watched that thing 3 or 4 times. I just think it's hilarious.
That's a great idea.
So it's about maybe a little over halfway, and I have a bit of a game I want to play. If you're not from Michigan here, we have these commercials that they'll play, and has this really iconic cinematic voice in the background, and it says Pure Michigan. And so the game is it really Pure Michigan? So Ben, I'm going to read you some facts, and I just true or false. Is it really a fact about Michigan or is it not?
All right.
So number one is the UP is home to approximately 15 waterfalls. True or false?
False. It's way more than that.
Yeah. It's something I've blown away living in Michigan. I didn't know this till a few years ago. Michigan has over 300 waterfalls, all of which are located in the Upper Peninsula except for one, and that is the Akiak Falls.
Okay.
Never knew that. Lived in Michigan my whole life. Which we did, I think last year anyway, or 2 years ago, we did my first of several, I hope, is waterfall tours up in the UP. And there are some amazing waterfalls up there. There's Quamanon Falls, but there's a lot of other great waterfalls up there. It's really cool.
Absolutely. Especially up in like the Porcupine Mountains there.
Yeah. So question number 2, more tonnage of materials passes through the Soo Locks in Sault Ste. Marie than the Suez Canal and Panama Canal combined. True or false?
I don't know, but I'm going to go with true.
It is true. Amazingly, I was blown away at that. That is a lot of goods traveling through the Soo Locks that I had no idea it was that much. Question 3. Michigan, home of the Great Lakes, which, little known fact, 4 out of 5 Great Lakes chose Michigan. But Michigan is home to very few inland lakes, though.
False.
Very much false. We have about 11,000 inland lakes. Question 4. Michigan is the only place in the world that has a floating post office.
Oh. It's got to be false.
It's actually true.
Oh.
Apparently, Detroit is the only home of a floating post office. It is the J.W. Westcott, and it operates out of Detroit, and it takes letters to all of the passing boats that are going all through the Great Lakes and delivers packages to them.
Very cool.
Which is obviously another fact I had no idea about. Next question is, Michigan is home to the first paved road.
False.
That one is also true. In 1908, there was a 1-mile stretch of Detroit that was the first paved road.
Wow.
Living up to the Motor City name. Another Detroit question. Detroit metro area sits on top of a large coal mine.
True.
Oh, it is false.
Oh,
It is so. I was a little weaselly on that one. It sits on top of a large salt mine, though,
oh,
and you're on the west side of the state more than I'm on the east side. So I'm just about 45 minutes north of the Detroit. When I was a kid, I had the honor to go down into the salt mines. They claim that there is, at the current rate of consumption, there is almost enough salt to last about 70 million years down there,
wow.
which is crazy. But they have, I'm not sure why, they shut that salt mine down and it's no longer open. But another neat Michigan fact. Um, Last question. The Upper Peninsula is home to Christmas.
True.
That is true. Michigan has some really odd city names, one of being Christmas, which is up in the UP, as well as other cities like Colon, Hell, Slapneck, Podunk, and Paradise.
Yep.
We've got definitely some weird city names.
For sure.
I'm not sure how the people feel about saying that they're from Podunk, Michigan,
Right.
but so I'm going to move on from that to video performance. And I think you've kind of alluded a little bit to it, but just curious as to how you follow your video's performance. Do you look at the analytics page on your YouTube studio? And if you are looking at it, are you making changes based off of what you're seeing?
I always look at it. I monitor it, follow it. I I'm not sure changes. Yeah, I mean, if the video's doing poorly, I'm looking into the analytic. That gives me some visibility of why. I could see that maybe I'm losing everybody before they. Maybe there's just a really amazing piece in the video, say in the middle, but they might not ever even get that far, right? Because they get bored long before that. So that's going to give you that kind of visibility. The pro tip, if you will, is have that first 10 seconds. So that's something you'll see in a number of my videos this year. Is I emphasized in that intro, and I don't think it was single-handedly just that made a difference, but I did. I put more emphasis in that intro to have it be exciting. I definitely saw a trend of the view, the attention span was much better. Then I recorded my own personal call to action. Hey, make sure you subscribe, stuff like that. Things that I really wasn't as diligent about in the past. All that stuff definitely helped. And, this past year, I was hoping, and I figured it would happen, that I would reach 5,000 subscribers by November 1st was kind of my goal, and I did. But now I'm at 7,000, so I had like a 20% gain since then. That's
Yeah.
that's really good for me, and I think all those things helped.
Yeah, I saw that in your videos, especially your Benny videos, which I mean, I feel like a lot of people love following that type of story. And then you kind of showed some exciting kind of highlights, and that kind of whets your appetite like, oh, I got to watch this because there's some good action going on. And then you cut to you and another guy in the truck, and you made it a little bit funny, like, okay, I'm waiting. You should have
Yep.
found it by now. And, it doesn't make you feel awkward that, oh, they're asking me to subscribe. It puts some comedy to it, while not, like, it wasn't super long to make them lose their attention. So I think that was really cool.
Yeah, thank you. I think it helped for sure.
And then, so you're obviously you follow those analytics. Are you looking at the comments, and when you see, let's say, negative comments per se, and I don't know that you have too many, I'd imagine you've experienced some.
Oh yeah.
How do you handle those comments? Do you not respond? Do you just kind of thanks for the input? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I've got kind of a spectrum when it comes to the comments. And so I've had uh, animal rights activist groups come right after me in the comments, reporting all my stuff in YouTube and trying to create havoc on my channel, um, death threats, things like that. So when it gets into that, generally I'll start
Wow.
uh, documenting those things, because they might go and remove their comment, things like that later. And those are, you got to take that stuff somewhat seriously, especially if it's a threaten to me and my family. So that kind of stuff I'll generally document. I'm not going to likely change their mind and all that kind of stuff. However, I do have like a series of probably more de-escalating type comments of to cause them to think a little deeper, um, beyond the should you are you sure you want to threaten me, but more just the why behind it. Just remind them that their ancestors did this. They're the ones that decide to stray away from it, and uh, you don't. Yeah. Anyways, uh, most of those I won't engage with when they're at that level, and I can have a little fun with it, because if I don't say anything at all, generally I've got these faithful viewers that will they'll jump in and start dialoguing,
Yeah.
and that's ready when I'm ready to pop some popcorn and watch the show. um, then there's some just basic haters. I didn't shoot a big enough buck for their liking, or they don't like the way we drag our deer, hang our deer, gut our deer. Just all kinds of comments that um, it's not that big a deal. So I you know as far as the Camp Benny viewership, I definitely want to align the subscribers with, I guess, our type of uh, message or goal, as far as more that heart to unify hunters and not tear them down. Because I don't know how we're going to have a future in hunting if we don't, unify and align. Because the animal rights activists are really, after our hunting rights. Um,
Yeah, for
so
sure.
yeah, but I try and
What about
I try to reply to every comment. You know, for sure the good ones or nice ones. I appreciate people taking their time to say something. So I definitely want to give them some feedback and show them appreciation back.
yeah, for sure. What about other platforms? Are you strictly kind of on YouTube? What about like Facebook, Instagram? Have you looked at, just because the way YouTube seems to be going, looked at maybe Rumble or anything else? Is that something you're thinking about or planning?
I'm always thinking about it. I'm not overly concerned as far as finding, say, another video platform. I don't have much more bandwidth than or time than what I devote now. Um, so, this past fall we started an Instagram uh, account for Camp Benny, And a big enabler for that was the fact that my son-in-law actually came to me and said, "Hey, you let me hunt your properties, you take me out and you do all these things, and I feel like I should do something to help you, and I'd like to help you with your Camp Benny stuff. I know you could do more if you had more time to put into it, and what do you think about me being the administrator of that?" And that was a big blessing to me. That really allowed that to happen. So that's grown pretty quickly with good engagement. Um, if I don't know what there is, probably 300 or 400 followers, maybe closer to 500 by now. But if we post something about camp or whatever, it's not uncommon for us to get 100 likes, and that kind of thing. So that's good engagement for the numbers. I think it means we're attracting the right people, that belong there. It's one thing to have let's say you do a butchering deer video and you gain 50,000 new subscribers, and that could be exciting, but you see a lot of those channels that do that, and then the rest of their videos, they get no engagement. So it's, how much of a win is that really? So I it's one thing I can say about the Camp Benny channels. I feel like I've got a real loyal, good core following of people that are like-minded. The right viewership is there in line with the subscribers.
Okay.
If I had to
That's
make a
cool.
shift, I'd probably look at maybe Carbon TV as another video platform. They're known to be more on the conservative side, um, less, it's for hunting, as a platform, and it's known for that. So I could see maybe I've thought about, maybe putting some of my content that way as well.
Okay. I'd imagine over the years, you've had people reach out to you to do product reviews, make videos for them. Um, as even like I've got a fairly small YouTube channel, even with less than 500 subscribers. I had someone asking me to review a trail camera, which I was flattered at. But I'd imagine you've been asked to review some of that stuff, and tell me, if you have decided to or not decided to, and maybe a little bit about that sort of thing.
Yeah, so it's for sure weekly, if not daily. I have opportunities. A lot of them are overseas. Um, I've, for the most part, decided not to. It's one of those things that require a lot of my time. And if you look at the reviews that I have done, which is only a few, uh, they haven't performed real well. And so I think, maybe I'm not very good at it, or um, maybe if, I think there is wisdom, and if it's something that I wanted to focus on and did it with, real high quality, probably could attract even more sponsors that I'd probably rather align with. Um, but yeah, at this time, I'll look at them, but I haven't found anything in a while that I've been wanting to go ahead and do.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that, just scouring through your page. You've done a few review videos here and there, but that's definitely not your core. And maybe that speaks to your audience too. Your audience isn't there to see you review a trail camera. They want to see you doing some Camp Benny stuff, or shooting an M1 Garand, or catching birds.
Yeah. Now I do get a fair amount of questions about the products that I'm using. I mean, what bow is that? What gun is that you're using? What's that face mask you're using, and things like that. And I enjoy that dialogue. That it's of value, and I'm not being paid to do anything, kind of thing. So it's good and genuine.
Right, right. So obviously, we've talked a lot about your family's involved with camp life. They're involved in a lot of your videos, and your family is obviously really important to you. And you've even talked about it a little bit. But it is one of the questions, like um, how do you find balance between YouTube and then family life and career? Sometimes we can put so much effort into the YouTube part of it and kind of lose sight of what's really important.
Yeah, you're right. It just takes being intentional about my life and my schedule to make sure that I'm bringing balance to all of it. Um, even though I'm a business owner and I could spend, all business day working on this stuff, myself, I wait till noon to post something, or, wait for my lunch break, if I take one, just because I feel that that's, the right thing to do as far as, self-discipline, structure in my life. Um, so yeah, I've got to make time for my family, and I've got those things that are a priority. This is a hobby thing. It's fun. I like that others enjoy it, but it can't become more important than my family, my faith, my devotion time, and my work. It can never trump those things, or hunting.
Yeah. So we touched base on what's important, and I don't think I want to like skip this part of it. Can you tell us maybe a little bit how your faith plays out in your YouTube channel, and how, maybe some of the goals that you're using your YouTube channel, and stuff like that with your faith?
Yeah, so if you watch my channel, hopefully you would gather that um, I'm a Christian. I believe that Jesus died on the cross for my sins so that I can be saved. And so a goal on my channel is that it would be something that would bring honor to our Creator, to God. All the things that I'm doing in those videos, certainly I recognize is coming from Him. And so I don't want to lose sight of that. Um, yeah, so that's kind of what's generally going on in my mind, is that I want to be authentic in the videos, and my faith is something that's part of me and who I am, and so I'm not going to water that down. I'm going to be me, and so hopefully that's what would be seen.
That's awesome. I really appreciate you being open about that. That's very cool. Definitely setting priorities as faith, family, friends, and then fun. And I think that's super important to kind of live life with those things in that order. And definitely
Exactly.
puts things into perspective and helps you plan your priorities.
Yep. We keep that straight, keeps us out of trouble.
So we've talked about your family, obviously super involved. They're in a ton of your videos. How many videos at any given time would you say that you're kind of working on, or have maybe started and are working on completing or compiling?
Uh, I would say at any given time, anywhere's from on the low end, hopefully at least one to probably six. It's much easier for me to get that lineup uh, going during the fall time because that's kind of my peak time. But spring I've got mushroom hunting, shed hunting, scouting, whitetail from the previous season, kind of read what's going on out in the woods, and of course the turkey hunting aspect. Um, yeah, summer is probably my more slower time. Yep. But right now I've already got my video scheduled for this coming Saturday, and then I already have the next one after that in the works. Um, so it's time for me to start thinking about, a little bit further out from that. But before I know it, it'll be time for shed hunting and turkey hunting. So that'll be, easy content for sure.
Right, right. So we already kind of touched base on a few of your videos. And maybe I gave you the idea of a shorts video for catching a bird. Another
Yes.
one that I spotted on your channel was a deer almost gets hit by a boat. Tell me about that one.
Yeah, we were out on Lake Michigan fishing for salmon and trout, and we were coming in the channel, heading back to the marina to park the boat and go grab some lunch. And there was a deer swimming across the channel, and it was, one of those moments. It wasn't just a deer swimming across the channel; it was a deer swimming across the channel with all these boats going through the channel. And it's kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever had that where you're on the road and say there's a turkey on the road, and rather to be safe, all it'd have to do is just cross the road, but instead it turns and actually runs down the road, so it's making it worse every step.
Yeah.
That's what this deer was doing. It would move from one boat and head right for the front of the next one. It's just no. So it almost got hit multiple times. But they have the hollow hair, so I'm sure it was doing okay, as far as just kind of floating and swimming around, but not something you see every day.
No, for sure. When I saw that, I was like, man, that's just crazy. Like, I've never witnessed a deer swimming, but I've seen other videos. But to see a deer almost get hit by a boat,
Yeah.
another great idea for a YouTube short.
Yeah. Thank you for that. If these really take off, I owe you.
And then another deep dive. How about I got a couple other ones. Forging your own railroad spike knife. That I've wanted to do that for a long time. So tell me about how you got hooked up with doing that.
This was a really cool experience. So, Camp Benny up in the UP is in a mining area. And through my property, there's an old railroad bed from the 1800s, and it's just, flat dirt kind of deal. Well, we were going to put a food plot
Oh yeah.
on that spot, and railroad spikes started shooting up. And so I grabbed a bunch of them, just brought them back to camp for decoration and whatnot. Well, so with my relationship with Fourth Arrow, they actually have like a blacksmith type shop in their factory. And they invited me in to make a knife. And I knew people do that with railroad spikes. So I grabbed one of the spikes from Camp Benny, brought it there. I also made a knife out of a file. So I made 2 knives that day. First time for me. Put a twist in the handle, and it's in a sheath now and everything. And if you watch, I think in 2019 or 2020, I shoot a doe up at Camp Benny, and I actually used that knife to gut her. And that, I don't know, it was just very meaningful for me because I knew I made that knife from a spike from that property, and gutted a deer that was taken on that property. So quite the sentimental person, and it meant a lot.
Yeah, that is really cool. Like handmade, from your property, gutting your own deer, that's really cool.
Yeah, very special memory
I'm
for
hoping
sure.
one day to either make a forge or have access to a forge to do a similar type thing for sure.
Yeah,
I've made a couple of knives, but it was just basically taking a raw piece of spring steel and then kind of cutting and grinding. But I would really like to hammer one out. Would be cool.
yeah.
So, can you tell me just kind of a couple closing things here? What? Well, let me. One question I wrote down. Obviously, you live in the Lower Peninsula. Your camp is up in the Upper Peninsula. How many trips a year do you take up to the UP?
So it varies. There's years where we'll draw a bear license, and we'll have a lot more trips, or we'll decide to do some turkey hunting. So I've gone up there as much as uh, I think the most I've ever gone up was somewhere between 11 and like 15 times. I know it's quite a range, but it's more than 10 anyways. I would say average probably 4 trips up, on average per year.
Okay. Um, just because it popped into my head, I'm too ADD. Ever done Michigan elk hunting? And if not, are you looking to get a Michigan elk tag?
I've got 13 chances. I've never been drawn yet, but I've been trying. You will probably hear about it
I
if I get
I have
drawn.
okay. I have really been drawn to that, and I will be turning in for my first points this year for sure. I
Great.
know the population is growing, and I would love to have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. They say it's so unlikely to get drawn, yet I know multiple people that have been drawn. So it must be better chances than winning the lotto, because I don't know anybody that's won the lotto personally.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, what would you say if you could pick out one or maybe your top two favorite videos on your channel?
Deer Camp Anthem is definitely up there. Um, the demonetized 10 point is up there. There's a hunt called Redemption that is definitely up there. One of my favorites for sure.
Okay.
Uh,
And I will try to have links to all those down below as well. I feel like I have seen all three of those videos. I'm like 99% sure I've seen all three of those videos, and I would recommend them all. Well, I say aside from the buck that you just told me about, that one is on my to watch list, and
yeah, you'll like it.
unfortunately, I feel like that may be one of my favorites as well. So maybe we could wrap up. Have you got any? You've given us several pro tips for the day. Maybe some other small tips that you could give some smaller YouTube channels that may help them out.
Uh, just because I don't know if it was internet connection or whatever, but would you mind repeating that question?
So you've given us several pro tips for the day um, that definitely are going to help out. Have you got any other tips you can give us smaller channels that are out there?
Yeah. So if I was a smaller channel starting, and I know somebody that's kind of going through this process right now that I've been talking to that had some questions, I'd really encourage you to think about, what do you want to accomplish out of this? Are you looking to be a star? Are you looking to just capture what's going on and share with friends and family. What are you focusing on here? I think there's many out there that and I get it, want to have videos that go viral and they want to be stars, perhaps make a living off of it, those kinds of things. Especially if you're looking to do that, say in the outdoor hunting industry, I think you really need to keep in mind that there's a lot of those out there. You got a lot of competition per se. So capturing your hunts, self film, and showing them to others is not a new idea. There's tons of that out there, and I'm not trying to be mean, rude, or otherwise. Just being real. So if you wanna have the most successful, let's say you wanna compete with the hunting public, you really need some special angle or something about you that differentiates you from all those other channels out there. I feel like for me, some of my differentiation is perhaps the deer camp lifestyle, right? There's plenty of those out there too, but that's kind of like my Camp Benny thing, my brand. Everything is around that. Um, but I can't give myself credit for being smart on that. It just happened, it's just who I am. And so there's a certain group of people that enjoy that, and that makes it fun. Um, but it's not like I have this giant channel either, right? So if you're a small channel and your goal is to grow, just keep that in mind. What is your angle? I've seen video or channels that are way smaller than me that I think they're way better with a camera, way better than with editing. I mean, they're using DSLRs. I mean, just top quality. Yeah, I almost feel bad and they got all the Sitka gear and all this, all kinds of money wrapped into making a beautiful video. And that's what it is, a beautiful video, but there's a ton of those out there. So but all they're doing is a hang and hunt, and they might use the word public land or whatever, and all that stuff can be popular, but they're not the only ones. They're not the pioneers in that. So if you can think of some kind of angle, and if that's your goal for the growth, I think that will be very important to consider.
I think that's like an awesome tip. I think having a goal is key to that. Know what you're looking to do, and I think, like you mentioned, there's a million of us out here doing self filming and doing hunting YouTube pages because
Yep.
it's just cool to do.
Yep.
And it's just for myself. I just enjoy the filming. I enjoy the being able to capture those memories. But if you're looking to really grow, I think you're right. You got to have the niche. Like for you, you founded it, and at least the way I see it is the deer camp, and that is a niche market. And I think there's a lot of people who love to see that stuff. That's why I think some of these videos do so well, because the people that are looking for that niche, they find that and they're just drawn to it, versus everyone who's just doing self-filming hunt buck down. You can look that up and you're going to find thousands and thousands and thousands. But if you look up deer camp specifically, or Upper Peninsula deer camp, kind of narrows you down. And I think that definitely will help things for sure. Not that I'm by any means
Yeah, in a
nailing
way,
that down, but
with what I was mentioning, where they got that beautiful cinematography and all the gear, a budget that maybe even the average person can't even relate to, with the amount of money that's put. I don't even, if that is what they want, that's totally fine. But perhaps steering the other way and go the most simple. Uh, I like to say that I can go out and kill a deer wearing my church clothes, and I have, or my work clothes or whatever. I don't need the fanciest camo out there. I've got the same suit for 10 years. I have no problem with somebody that buys a new suit every hunting season. That's totally fine. I'm just saying there's a lot of commercialism out there and whatnot. So perhaps go another direction and be more unique.
Yeah, like maybe sport some green and black plaid.
Now there's an idea.
Yeah. Well, Ben, I really appreciate the time. Definitely got some great tips out of this, and really think it's going to help myself and help a lot of other people. And really have just enjoyed being able to hear the history of your channel and kind of where you were and where you're headed, and kind of the things that you have in the works. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. I love talking about this stuff, and deer season's over, so I was so glad that you reached out to me towards the end of season, and man, I just really appreciate getting to know you, and this whole dialogue's been wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. And as for everyone watching, as always, thanks for sticking around, and we'll see you guys next time. What a great podcast with Ben. He had some great advice, several great pro tips in there. And then the best one of all, I think, was really priorities. And that started for him with faith first, then family, friends, and fun. He also talked about how Jesus was the payment for his sin. And if you've got questions as to what that means, go ahead and contact me. You can contact Ben. I'm sure we'd love to talk more about that with you. If you've gotten something out of this podcast, please consider subscribing. Hit that notification bell down below. And I've got a whole bunch more of these coming out, so please follow along with those. Also, if you have comments, some other questions that you'd like to have answered, please shoot those questions over to me down in the comments. As always, thanks for sticking around, and we'll see you next time.